when you say like listen to my wants, I feel like a lot of us were raised with wants that are really not our wants. Like we're being polite and we think it's the right thing to do. Well, hi, Katie.
Hello. So just
How
so
are
happy
you?
you on this background that keeps evolving and just like you.
It's funny because I was today, this weekend, I'm going to spend time. I'm going to put wires with photos, like a kind of clothespins type of things. And it's a creative experiment. Well, I was really excited for us to talk today. I went to a party last night and I knew I wasn't going to like it. It was a dance party and I knew I wasn't going to like the music. So there was already a little bit of there was a country kind of music that, and I was really struggling with, I want to be with my friends, but I really don't like being here. I remembered a couple of events I went with Gay where he walks out when he's not enjoying what's happening. And I love that he does that. And I wanted to talk about choice and how, like I was processing, I mean, maybe that ruined my evening a little bit too, because I was like, should I be here? Should I not be here? Should I have said yes? Should I, all of that. And I was curious too, how do you process that when there's options and maybe they're not full yes, but some
Mhm.
yes, maybe?
Yes, because I know that we've talked before about a whole body yes and a whole body no, but it sounds like you had what I call a limbo experience.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
We're in between, and that limbo state, when you're not here and not there, in itself is uncomfortable.
Exactly. That's what it
'Cause
felt like.
we wanna
Mhm.
be located. I wanna either get in or get out, and I can remember having this conversation with lots of partners, lots of couples in relationship
Mhm.
where they would say, "Well, I wanna be in, but I have these hesit." So they were in that not in and not out, and what I found, just on a practical level, is that being in limbo is dangerous because you're actually not located. You're not in your body because you haven't stepped into the situation where you are. And so when people in relationship, we really assist people to, either get in or get out. And one
Mhm.
of the things that I have found for parties, like, if I haven't been to a party in a very long time, because of COVID, et cetera. But what I do is I look and I say, okay, I'm going to get in and fully participate. And then if I'm not enjoying it, then I'm going to get out. So,
Mhm.
uh, or I might come through and I go, oh, I could just, something
From the
smells
beginning. Mhm.
from the very beginning. Because we also have a saying that I really love, which is little problem at the beginning, big problem later on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It
So
grows.
so
Mhm.
I look at those things like, for me, is there air circulating? So I go
Mhm.
at it from the physical level of, do I feel that I can breathe and be here? So
Mhm.
that's one element of choice. But what I really see is that most people go passive in that kind of situation and kind of go along with, and then they can feel at the effect of like, I didn't really want to be here, but she wanted me to be here. And so I'm here, but I'm not really here and it's her fault. And so they can get it into that drama.
It's interesting because I feel like I may have done a version of that without knowing the recipe for it because it was outside, so there was definitely air. And I did dance at the beginning. I really did not like the sound of it, but I did that. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna give it. Like I'm gonna really, and I danced this country music. Of course, people were line dancing, which never traversed the ocean, never made it to Paris. So I've never done that. So I did. And actually, one of my friends who knew I wasn't going to love the music came over and she whispered in this really loud music, but she said, wow, you're faking it really well. Like somehow I knew how to move my body somewhat to that sound. But then, so I did that and I was having more fun. I was definitely just from the watching, I mean, it was an exotic experience really for me. So I was just watching people interact, in funny ways. Then I could feel I was reaching, I was like, okay, I have about 10 more minutes in
Yeah.
me. And so I was with my friends and I said, I have about 10 more minutes. So just so you know, I will be leaving, in about 10 minutes. But I felt, they were like, oh, so I felt that. But I was like, at that point, it was more,
Right,
and
right.
I'm
That
done.
their
Yeah.
wasn't
Mhm.
going to
No,
influence you.
no,
Yeah.
no, no, no more.
So I'd love to be here, but I can't really be here.
Right.
So what I was hearing is that you were referencing your sensory experience.
Yes.
As well as, I mean, you might have had some thoughts. So like one of my basic dilemmas at a party is when I don't know people,
Okay.
and I have to, in order, I choose to go up to people that I don't know and say hello, or I just wait and see if, there's some kind of pull that
Hmm.
pulls me. But some people, they just, go right in and they want to meet everybody. And, that's not basically my style. But what I did is uncover an old pattern of waiting to be included. So
Ah.
I think these kinds of situations are a great way to look at, how do I choose? Do I wait for people to choose me? Do I choose when I choose? Do I experience that I'm being aggressive, or, I'm imposing on people? So I think it is really a lot about it. It reminds me of playground.
Mhm.
So early going to the playground and, maybe having higher grades and lower grades out of the playground, and people had, their own cliques, and so for me, I moved a lot. And
Mm.
so I was always encountering this situation of other people knew each other and they didn't know me.
Yeah.
And so that added to the, am I gonna go, ta-da? Like, here I am, the strange girl from, like my my most vivid experience was that was it when I was 12, we moved from Detroit to Santa Barbara.
Whoa,
And
that is an exotic experience.
and I didn't know what a taco was, and I didn't, it was, I mean, this was a very long time ago, but, and I had my saddle shoes from, no, I never lived that one down. I had my saddle shoes from Detroit because I had trouble with my feet, and so they were always trying to, fix my knees through different shoes, and, so I was always known as the girl in the saddle shoes.
Oh,
And then
baby, I wish we were friends then. You would have been
you
my
know,
friend.
me too. It was so that whole sense of, I'm going to wait to see if it's a gentle environment here.
Mhm,
Of
mhm,
course, in childhood, but especially as a teenager, that it's not a gentle environment, and
mm-mm.
so all those movies that you see about what teenagers do to each other, I think all of that is pretty accurate. The in group and the out group. So I think that also influences choice. So my experience of you, Sophie, is that, because when you show up anywhere, it's a party, that there's a, there's a sense of you're just going to bring yourself and people will be magnetized to you.
Mhm.
But I don't think everybody, both feels that way energetically, but also, can come into a party like, you're so lucky to have me.
Oh, it's funny, I walk around with my own party, so
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
never.
yeah, exactly. And so people get like, "Ooh, I want to play with her," And I do think that's one of the things we can cultivate in ourselves is I'm available.
Mhm,
So the choice isn't just, I'm going to get in there and I'm going to meet people, but it's really I'm going to be available for
mhm,
contact.
mhm,
And then it can happen kind of more organically. People can approach you, or you might notice somebody. This is where I do a lot of what I call loop of awareness, where I'm checking in with me, how am I experiencing, and then I just look around, and if I catch somebody's eye, I see somebody else is available, then we might have a little exchange, and they might smile, and I smile, and then I find an opening. So
mhm.
I'm creating an opening, but we're also looking for the opening.
Uh, that is really that is really interesting that you perceive me as someone. I mean, you have said that before, so I know that is your read of me. But at times, I'm kind of I'm a fake extrovert a little bit. I
Yeah.
do have, like, if you ask me how do I recharge, It will be more taking a warm bath with a good book, with a candle, it won't be go to a party and
Oh, yes.
but I think I trained myself in my environment as a child. I think if you were a true introvert, you were not safe. Like you'd be judged a lot. And so I think I've developed
Mm,
it. So maybe that is part of what you call limbo, where I'm kind of willing and I know how to do it. And why not? And it's nice to share. Sometimes I have pushed myself a little bit and it turned out to be a really delicious moment.
mm,
So I'm wondering if there is like the read to the body seems like always, I felt like we always talk about that because it's so central to it all. But at some point,
sure.
my body, and in the country music, they do this fiddle thing, which is like violin.
Yeah, uh-huh.
That was like, my body was like, no, no, this is
Nope,
it. This
nope,
is it. We're
yeah,
walking out. And I did say to my friends, this is my
this
this
is
is
my
my
signal.
cue. This is my cue. And I walked away. And people this morning were sending me all these really sweet texts, like, thank you for coming. I mean, they saw that it wasn't exactly my thing, but I was really trying. So I guess one of my questions is then can all choice work because I would have participated, fully? Like, because the way you described it, it sounds like you go fully. And then if it's not really lining, then you go, right?
Sometimes if I have that sort of in between. So one thing I wanted to say to you about your style, introvert, extrovert, I was just having the thought that you may be more what some people call an intimate extrovert.
Ah,
That you can you like to go like extroverts get their juice by like they go to the party and be there all night and and then they say okay where are we going to go next because they're all fueled up,
yeah.
but true introverts wouldn't even go to the party.
Right.
uh so the in between, so an intimate extrovert likes to go deep more than going out wide,
Yes.
but been going deep with a few people, not with everybody, like
Right.
going around dancing with everybody. And so to we all have nuances and continuums, on all of these dimensions, including choosing to be with people or choosing to be alone. And I've spent a lot of time in our seminars really asking people and showing people how to tune into their choice.
Mm.
Like, how do I want? And how do I know what I want? Where's my wanting, muscles inside? And where in me lets me know I want to move toward or I want to move away?
Oh,
And those signals can come actually for every step that you take. So it's not like I'm in and I'm in forever. It's I'm here right now.
mhm.
And for me, and locating myself where I am right now and being fully in that here I am allows me to actually make a full choice rather than I'm
Yeah.
not there.
I love that. I love that. It reminds me of, we have a friend where we live who was in a car accident where her head was really messed with in the accident, but now she censors nothing. She says exactly what's on her mind at all times, which is really funny. It's like being with a toddler and an older, person.
Yes,
But as I was introduced, and she talks about it all the time. There's no secret about it. If anything, I think she warns people that she
yes,
said,
yes.
I'm not going to tell you I like my food if I don't, like all of that. And so one day she's passing by me, and I was with another friend, and I said, "Hey, this is our friend," and she doesn't censor what I said it in front of her, and we walked away with my other friend, and my other friend said, "I wish I had that." Because she doesn't say what she thinks, and I wanted to tap in with you in this conversation with when you say like listen to my wants. I feel like a lot of us were raised with wants that are really not our wants, like we're being polite and we think it's the right thing to do. And like how do one, other than being completely rebellious, which is one option, and like no, I will not do anything that I was taught and become kind of a social a bit. I'm curious, like, how does one identify one wants when there's been these rules and these, regulations
Oh
put on
gosh,
the.
that's such an important question. The it starts really early in life,
Uh-huh.
and and it starts with very basic things like, what do you want to eat?
Yes.
Like, what are you choosing? And I can remember with one of my granddaughters that by the time she was, gosh, 9 or 10 months old, if we put something on her, she'd be sitting in her high chair and we put something on there and she would, pick things she wants and she would actually, she would
Discard the stuff she didn't.
discard off of off of the tray, the things that she
Mhm,
didn't want.
mhm.
And what I saw her doing was using her full sensory experience to try on and then, oh, I like this and I don't like this.
Mhm,
And I don't think that many of us are allowed to like and not like. It's like, this is your meal and you're going to eat it.
mhm.
And and in my family, it was also think of the starving children in wherever it was they were.
Yes,
It's
we had
like
those in
somehow
Africa.
my
Mhm,
eating or
mhm,
not was going to influence them. And so it got to be
mhm.
a whole gestalt of, I'm responsible for all of the starving children if I don't eat. And then also if I my mother, who was a prime narcissist, if I didn't eat, it meant that she was a bad mother. I mean, it was
Yes,
straight to.
yes.
So I think many of us have those kinds of dialogues and unfinished conversations that get in the way of us actually going, do I want this? And a resource that I want to make available to our listeners and viewers is something from our book, Conscious Loving. It's in the appendix and it's called The Choice Map. And it explores this very thing of, how do you know what you want? And so I want to include that with this episode because it takes you through a whole process that people have found really, really valuable. But it really starts with uh, opening up to, when you say, I want, what happens?
Mhm.
How do you experience I want? Or how do I know what I want? And then what happens? And then takes you in, do you want a drink of water right now?
Mhm.
Like, do you want a drink of water right now, Soph?
I don't. Not
And
this.
how do you know that?
I well, I know. I know because if I wanted one, it would have been a different sensation. I think it's more from the what I want that I identify what I don't want in this moment and for this.
Yeah, and sometimes it always is a body sensation or a
Mhm,
combination of body sensations, whereas society, parents and culture come at it from, you should,
mhm.
not you want. You should or you shouldn't. And so most of us get our wanting just, smack.
Imposed, imposed on
Yeah,
us. Yeah.
impose. Yeah.
I'm familiar with the narcissistic parenting. And I think it gets pretty messed up because my wants, I mean, it's almost like I was trained to care about others' wants more than my own. Like it was dictated to me as it really is the right thing to do. And it's confusing because when these big people, you're little and you're learning from these people and they're telling
Mhm.
you that it's the right thing to do, it becomes almost in truth, it's not, but it becomes, oh, so if I listen to this adult that knows what they're doing, it seems, then I'll be okay, I'll be safe. And it really is not true. And it's for us as we grow to deconstruct all this and decipher what actually is true for us and what is not.
Well, and as you were saying that, what I was thinking is that the result of all of that, mixed messaging is that we, the recipients, the ones who are trying to choose, the kids, start doubting our own experience.
Yeah,
I don't want this. It tastes terrible, but my mother says I have to eat it.
right.
It'll be good for me. Or like, I'm remembering at Thanksgiving, my mother would always make rutabaga
Oh,
from, because we
rutabaga. Whoa.
love rutabaga. And I mean, even just thinking of it, the smell of it, and we, and so Thanksgiving, wonderful, and rutabaga. That that was part of what. Well, you should eat this. This is part of the. And so overriding my own, "Whoa," this isn't it's very confusing for
Mhm,
your nervous system. And
mhm,
so one of the big things that happens that's so freeing is to, like, for me, one of the big choices was to stop eating. Like, I'd be at a restaurant and I'd be eating something and I would stop eating because I'd had enough,
yeah.
rather than cleaning my plate or or not listening to my body to know when I was actually satisfied, more, not even full. And it was only a few years ago that I actually experienced my body saying, that's enough. It was this
Mhm,
gentle kind of nudge right in my diaphragm, just a
mhm.
kind of little, like the way that my cats will touch my cheek, it's a kind of, it was, and I listened to it. And from that moment, my whole digestion and belly and how I felt around food began to shift. And it began to shift with listening to those little signals, which are in itself a choice, that I'm
Mhm.
going to listen to me. And then going up against, like, remembering, situations, particularly at a holiday dinner where someone had said, is that all you're going to eat? Or, all of those comments about, you're too thin, you're all of these, that people feel that they are entitled to tell you about your own experience. So standing up to that is really an act of courage and liberation.
I was gonna say it is difficult to not do it from a rebellious place when, as a child, you have been, and the way you're describing it, they're the official eat my food, or I feel like you don't like me or love me or any of those things. But then there is also the subtle cues of you're not finishing your plate. And my family was war, and probably some of that yourself, like the whole generation that
Well, it
didn't
was
have
the
enough,
depression and not
the
having food. It was
depression.
really, yeah.
Yeah, and we had the same thing. Like the children in Africa are gonna, and I'm like, why? How does that have anything to do with me eating my food or not eating my food? And then the waste, like, don't waste your food. And it's like, don't you think it's wasting it if I eat it and then I don't need it, and my body is gonna put it out anyway? Like it's not, this waste concept is really kind of bizarre to me. But the subtle cues I remember from my parents and also, friends and aunts and whatever, they would look at you. There was this subtle disapproving of you that I remember as a child really understand, like almost like he would hit me, and
Ye
it probably
Yeah.
stopped my digestion, by the way, now that I know what I know.
Oh,
It would be this like
yes, I agree.
guilt,
Yeah.
like, oh, should I follow what I'm feeling or should I not disappoint this person? That was really same limbo, same like me or them or who's more important here.
Yeah, and even when I think of limbo and think of you in that limbo, I can feel my whole,
Well,
my diaphragm, where the fear center is right on top of your stomach. It's
yeah.
right on top of my stomach. And so if I'm feeling, fear, hesitation, anxiety, uh, it's going to stop my body signals from actually, my authentic body signals from reaching my brain, because they can't make it through the the fear contraction. So one of the things I was just thinking of is that a key to choosing is to first check, am I breathing?
Yeah.
Am I breathing? Because every time I'm not choosing, I can feel the contraction in my diaphragm.
Mhm.
There's this little, and when I open that, my shoulders drop.
Mhm.
I can actually see and experience more openly. So I think that the first key to choosing is to know, am I choosing to be with me,
Mhm.
which opens with breathing. And it sounds like really too simple, but I think it really is a key to opening. Then I can think, I can receive body sensations, I can consider more easily, rather than being in the adrenaline, fear, anxiety, and repeating an old pattern of, if I do that, they are not going to love me. I think it's
Mhm.
what it all comes down to, is that I'm going to be unlovable. I'm going to be cast out. I'm going to be in some way, I'm going to be shunned, or disconnected from the source of nourishment of other humans. It's
Mhm.
not just, the stuff we're doing or the stuff that we're eating. It's the nourishment of connection, and how much do we want and when do we want to say, okay, that's enough for right now.
Mhm, mhm,
I can remember when, Gay's been recovering from a very badly broken leg over the last year. And he was so clear about when people would want to come visit him. And he would check in and he'd say, just want to let you know I'm good for about 10 minutes.
mhm.
And when and I could see his body would change, and he'd say,
And then
"That's it.
mhm,
That's it."
mhm, mhm,
And he was very clear about it. And so I love that modeling of checking in and then reporting that clearly without any kind of
mhm,
edge on it or any like I'm trying not to offend you, or I am
mhm.
trying to offend you. It's really
Oh,
just
I don't care if it offends you.
I'm right. It doesn't matter because this is
Mhm,
what's so for me.
mhm. It's funny because having been in the presence of Gay when he does that, and I experience you the same way, but I think Gay really has honed don't take it personally. Even on his birthday, I remember one time him just being like, "We're done. All right." Like we all were like, "Oh, okay, okay, we're going." But never did it feel rude. Never did I feel not included or not liked. It was just an act of self-love we were witnessing. And it was, I mean, I think it takes a minute to get there. Like I remember I was dating this guy who was really, looking back, a very abusive situation, really. And I was young, and I remember he would always be late, very late, like possibly an hour late. I'm a young woman. I'm in a restaurant waiting for an hour. And I remember my therapist saying, if he's late more than 5 minutes, I want you to get up and leave. And I was like, she had asked me to, you know, die.
Slit your throat in
Ooh,
public,
it
right?
was so, so difficult. And then, of course, I'm at the next meeting with him at dinner and he doesn't come and it's 5 minutes. And the creativity I put in to not have to leave. I parked my car. I went around. I tried again. It was so painful for me to stand for me and my goodness and my respect. And I remember going home at whatever, 15, 20 minutes after waiting still. And he called me and he was so upset. He was like, "Why are you not here?" And I remember that moment was like fierce, so, just like Joan of Arc moment. And I was like, why would I be there? You weren't. Why would you want me to be there? And there was this like, all right, this is a new, I'm gonna be with
Yes.
myself. And it was the beginning of it. And it felt very courageous to do it, really.
Courageous, and you had some hesitation,
Yes.
and you stepped in. So that, that's what I call really choosing, because you stepped into your
Yeah.
choice
Hmm.
and you could feel it, and you were able to share about it in a way that continued to support you.
Yes. Yeah.
Rather than getting and it also, I think, ties in from with where are we getting our value
Yes.
from other people's responses or from our sense of this is what really works for me, this is what I want, this is what I don't want, and I'm going to stand for me. I'm going to have my own back here, rather than having being like one of those little dolls that you see when you're going by the car places, and they're
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. The
all
wind,
over
the
with
wind
whatever,
blowing. Yeah, yeah.
however the wind is blowing.
Mhm.
That there's even as you were saying that, I get in my own body a sense of, ah,
Yeah.
of I can feel my feet, I feel my structure. You were creating a whole new structure for you for choosing.
And it's pretty deep in here because I was raised where my needs weren't important. And so I chose someone like him. Like this person would never enter my sphere today. Like he wouldn't, like these people don't exist anymore
Yeah,
because I mean
they
they don't
don't. You don't
exist.
even see them. They wouldn't even recognize
They
you.
wouldn't
Yeah,
see me, like they wouldn't find, the enter, like I'm pretty sure I
yeah,
walked around with this opening, not the good kind of opening, that was just like, sure, come over. Like I will take your abuse, like I will take. And so I think
sure.
that moment where I was able to, when he called, and I was able to be, no, no, no longer, was years, possibly lineages. I mean, I'm thinking it's a long journey to get, although it happened in 1 second, because that no, I mean,
Well,
I could see the
but the antecedent to it, and what you did was interrupt a generational pattern.
yes, that's what I was gonna say. It's like it was a bit, it was, and although the moment was so moment, it was so temporary. I felt the, like I was kind of like pow into my new self.
Oh,
It's
yes.
profound.
And what I heard you say, which I think is also very much a part of this conversation, is you said no.
Yes.
So our ability to say no, which is really a critical part of our development as humans, which
Hmm.
is often really interfered with.
Hmm.
A clear no, like, no, I don't want this.
Uh-huh.
And so you're finding your no actually opens the space for yes.
Yes. That's beautiful. As we're wrapping up, I feel like we were very practical here, but I'm wondering if there is any last takeaway for us, like in that, like what does one do? I have one. What does one do? Because it was that moment of no was really difficult, and it almost had a flavor of I had to recover. I had to the next day I had to say
Oh,
no to something, like it was really a
oh yeah.
path,
What
not
you're actually
the
finding, it's I was remembering some of the first times that I got onto ice skates.
yes,
And I'm on them, but then whoa, I have to figure out how to get from one place to another.
yes,
But it opened up a whole new journey for you, a whole new, landscape of I'm choosing
yeah.
and from I'm valuing me. I really love that.
Well, I know we're at the end, but I want to acknowledge you because as I was finding my yeses and my nos, and it was still a pretty wobbly thing when I first met you. I could see that it wasn't as wobbly as then, but it's still. And I remember that night when I first had our conversation with you, and you really, it's almost kind of y- you broke the pattern because as a woman who saw me as a woman, and it was just kind of like, yes, you exist, I exist, we can both be beautiful in this moment. We can both exist in this moment, which was really the counteracting of a lot of the narcissism, because really for a narcissist, it's really them, not much the others. And so I think it's almost like in that moment, there was another cow, of kind of like, it's a possible thing to have me
Yeah.
exist and you exist in a way that does not take away or does not make it less for either.
Mm. I am so glad because I experienced both of us as kind of evolving works of art, and that's how
Mhm.
we see each other. And like your unique expression is totally beautiful, and I've learned that my unique expression is totally beautiful, and they can both exist in the same space.
Yes.
That that's what a joy.
What a joy. Thank you. I love you. See you soon.
Yes.